I met my wife while I was in the hospital. She was my nurse while I was healing from surgery. I was high on life after getting a growth taken out. Like I had been given a second chance, I meant to make the most of it. When I saw this nurse, I knew she was the one for me. I liked her, and when she liked me back, I gave her my number. For her to text me when she got home, I told her. While I was in the hospital, I was thrilled when she got out. She wasn't working when I got out of the hospital, but she still came by to bring me flowers. I asked her to dinner, and we've been together ever since. The year we got married was the same. I was 30 years old, and she was 27. She started telling me about the people she worked with and the patients she took care of right away. Of course, she didn't break HIPAA's rules. My wife had told me many stories about Joyce, an older woman. You wouldn't think an older woman would be so funny, and she was actually way too honest sometimes. My wife laughed more than once when she was brutally honest. My wife told me one day, through tears, that Joyce had been sent home to live with her grandson, who was her only family left, until she died. She told me that she had given Joyce's grants and her cell phone number in case they needed anything. My wife got a text from him just 2 days later, an hour after she got home from work. She quickly left again, eager to help. I finally checked the Family Finder app after she had been gone for hours. She was in a different part of town. I thought about where Joyce lived with her child. I texted her to see when she would be home. Even though she didn't answer, her doubts soon began traveling home. I asked her why she didn't answer and what took so long when she got there. It looked like she didn't know how long it took, and she was way too happy. She was so happy that she couldn't play it down. She tried to tell him that Joyce was really sick and needed her help to get around and feel better so she could comfort her grandson. When I asked her why she was so happy when Joyce was so sick, her smile went away. She said they were nice and she liked being with them. I thought she might have done something else, something much better than taking care of someone who was sick. When I asked her again why it was taking so long to get her set up, my wife lost it. It was rude of her to call him Nancy. That she didn't need me to wait for her to get home and that I should let her do her work. She either told me to enjoy my night, or she wasn't home. What she said hurt. It made me sad when she had to work late, or stay late at the hospital, I told her. I always looked forward to our nights together. That I really missed seeing her more than a few hours a day, I told her. She told me that was out of her hands and that I would have to deal with it. After that, she didn't talk to them for a few weeks, but she did make at least 3 more house calls to the same home during that time. She told me she was going to a funeral on the 4th weekend after she yelled at me. It took her a moment to say no, that it wasn't for Joyce but for another patient she didn't think would pass. When I asked for their name, she gave it to me right away. While she was gone, I looked for the name in the death notices but could only find one for an old woman named Joyce Thompson. As I drove by, I saw my wife being hugged by a young man who was sad about her death. They looked like a pair in love. As I watched them from the other side of the road, my throat got sore. The young man's words made me cry, and when he came back to my wife, I saw her kiss him on the cheek. He hugged her close with his arm. During the whole service, they were pretty much against each other until they got into a black car together and drove off. When I looked at the location app, my wife had turned it off. I still drove to the house where Joyce was staying while she took care of her. I saw the black car they were riding in and a lot of old furniture and other things that were strewn around in the yard. Even though I knocked on the door hard, AP didn't answer for a while. It looked like he just threw on a shirt and slacks to answer the door when he did. I was told to see my wife. As if he knew who I was, AP looked alert. My wife came out and put her shoes on. She asked me why I was there and what I was doing watching her. It was a surprise to her when I asked her where her bra was, since she wasn't wearing one. She turned very red and said she wasn't wearing one that day. It looked like they were married at the funeral, so I told her not to come home. She shut down right away. I could almost see the wheels turning in her head as she thought about how bad this was. She didn't wish to lose me or be kicked out of the house. AP then told her she could move in with him. Even though she didn't look totally calm, she felt strong enough to agree and move out a few days later. I was sad for 6 months. It seemed like she could break my heart and waste years of my life without getting caught. But then bad luck hit. When AP's ex-wife heard that someone else had moved in, she called him. She told him she was leaving so she and the kids could move back in. She lost it when he told my ex the news and kicked her out. She tried to get in touch with me for months, leaving worried voicemails on my phone that told me everything and showed how desperate she was. She even came to my house and waited outside for me to come out or get home. I was able to stay away from her until 2 days before our court date. She was fired from her job at the hospital and told not to go back to the house. This was likely because she was unhappy and couldn't go to work. She hit rock bottom when she had to move in with someone she had only met online. I don't think she'll be able to get out of that state anytime soon. I'm sure she used her job as a nurse as a reason to give AP her number, leave the house, and go see AP. She didn't value you enough to keep from lying and cheating on you. She said she cared about Joyce, but I don't think that's true. She most likely laughed with AP and told you it was his grandma so you wouldn't look into it further or question her. It's not hard to think that she was sleeping with AP while she said she was helping Joyce. Good job with your research. It was the right choice to break up with her and stay away from her at all costs. There are many things women will do to get their man to take them back, but they will do it again soon after. Okay, let's move on to the second story. Together, my wife and I ran our own home business. In our little food trailer, we cook chicken wings and a few other favorites. Our family of 3 goes on trips across the country, as far as we want, to attend big events and work in places where we can stay for days or even weeks at a time. We met 15 years ago at a party for a friend's birthday in our area. It was pretty much love at first sight for me. I asked her to dance, and we did it together most of the time. We both wanted to start our own business with our 3 children. I thought she would be able to do anything because she had great ideas. I fell even more in love with her during the start of our business. It was nice to look at and she was very thoughtful, focused, and skilled. She agreed with my plans and helped me make our food trailer from scratch. If I ever had any doubts, she helped me stay on track. It was great running the food trailer business, but we thought it was time for a change after a few years with all 3 kids. We began buying rundown homes and selling them for a profit. We would be very happy in this job. We worked together and shared each duty, even though I was better at fixing things and she was better at homeschooling the kids. Our RV served as a base camp, and the house we were working on was like a second home until it was time to move on to the next one. I saw a change in my wife after our youngest child turned 5. She used her phone to play games and send more messages to more people. It was her job to set up play dates for our kids with other moms in the city, she said. For a while, I believed this reason, but for months, she kept typing on her phone and never left the house with the kids. She went to see her old father 2 hours away on her own a few times. One night, I checked her phone for the first time while she was in the bathroom. What I read made no sense to me. The more I read, the more I was sure this was a fake account. She was texting and talking to a guy. There were pictures of her private parts that made me so sad when I wanted to share them. There was nothing about her that was left up to guess. My eyes became blurry and my heart began to beat fast. My hands were shaking when I realized I had to split up with my wife. When I opened the bathroom door, I told her she was seeing someone else. I showed her the texts even though she said no. Her jaw dropped, and she looked like her soul went back into her body. She just stared in silence. I asked her who the hell this person was. When she got back to the surface, she told me it was probably a fake person making it look like she answered and said those things when she didn't. When I showed her pictures of her own body, she pulled back again and looked very pale. Then I read her a message in which she called me her husband and said I was so boring that she wanted to leave me for AP but couldn't because she didn't want to lose the kids. I stopped to see what she would do, but she didn't say anything. I kept reading until they talked about how she filed for divorce in secret and got control of the kids before leaving in the middle of the night with them. She spoke, but then she shut it again. She finally told me she was sorry and that everything on her phone was just talk when her face turned red. Everything she said was just for show. It made her feel good to act like she meant it. She pulled back into her body again when I asked her what she meant by them. I looked through her other texts and saw that she was talking to a different guy in the same way months before he dumped her. Another guy turned her down, saying he was married before stopping her. I told her she was married too, but not for long. She begged me not to file for divorce, telling me how much she loved me and how sad it would be for the kids. As long as I warned her, I told her, I wasn't going to file in secret and then kick her out in the middle of the night. For hours, we fought back and forth. So she stopped crying and started yelling. When I told her to leave, she got mad at me, even though it was all her fault. AP was called and told what was going on. She put her bags away and tried to start putting the kids' bags away too. I told her not to take them from their home in the middle of the night or wake them up. It took the kids some time to get used to this, but I told her I would give them back to her if she got custody in court. She left without even waking them up to say goodbye, so she must have agreed with me. That night, it was so easy for my wife to leave our home and family. A few hours went by before she sobbed and called me. She told me he wasn't who he said he was, and she really needed my forgiveness right now. I told her I would never forgive her, and I didn't want her to come back. Even though I hung up the phone with her and tried to keep her out, she got in. I knew the cops wouldn't make her leave because her name was also on the mortgage. That's why I told her to sleep in the spare room and leave me alone. I told her she could keep teaching the kids at home until the split was over. Because she was in my power, she agreed to my terms. She worked really hard to get me back and be a great wife in the months before the court date. She didn't use her phone at all, and she tried to get together with me the night before the hearing. I'm glad to say it didn't work. It was only because AP wasn't who she thought he was that she did it, I knew. She was told to leave my house without paying any money, and I set the rules for when she could see the kids. Everything went just the way I had hoped. As a single dad, I tried to stay strong every day. When I was ready, I let my wife keep teaching the kids at home in the RV. She does it every day because she wants to be my wife again. I always tell her that Opie when pigs fly. I can't believe your wife cheated on you and even planned to leave you with AP. It's the worst thing a wife can do to her husband and children. Whether she meant to take them with her or not, she's making things a living hell for everyone and ruining the marriage and family security for no reason. It's very stupid and conceited of her to leave her kids and their dad for someone she has never met. That you didn't want her anymore must have made her very angry, so she went to AP to find a home and someone who would love her. When that didn't work, you could see how sorry and desperate she was. She didn't think about you or the kids when she did or chose something. She only thought about what she wanted and how to get it.